Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Monday everybody. Thank you so much everybody for the feedback from yesterday's video, the new series on China-related books. Today let's move back into our regular news analysis focused videos. As China moves closer to its highly anticipated and sensitive 20th Party Congress to be held in Beijing later this month, officials around the country are on high alert to prevent even a tiny outbreak of COVID cases in their locality. Unfortunately for them and for local residents affected, China is seeing its worst surge in infections in months. On Sunday, yesterday, China reported more than 1,700 cases over the previous 24-hour period, more than triple the figure from the previous week. Shanghai posted 34 new local infections, the most in almost 3 months, with 2 infections found outside of its quarantine system, sparking fears of a return to larger-scale lockdowns in the financial megacity. Indeed, some modestly sized snap lockdowns have already been rolled out over the last few days. But even at the national level, local authorities are getting especially anxious, with some adopting extreme measures. For example, according to an unverified document leaked over the weekend, authorities in Ningbo, Zhejiang province gave a red health code to all people from Henan that were living in the city. The poor province of Henan, currently seeing outbreaks, is a major source of laborers and other workers for the city. The Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post reports today that the document said that all the 60,000 or so people from Henan already in Ningbo were subject to 3 days of home quarantine and 4 days of health monitoring if they are not from the higher risk areas of Henan. During the week, they must have 6 PCR tests. Those from high or medium risk areas of Henan would be sent to public quarantine facilities. After the leaking of the document online, the local government was forced to ease off the measures and apologize publicly on Sunday evening. In a research note published today, Nomura's chief China economist warned that China's overall COVID situation has, quote, deteriorated significantly, end quote. Meanwhile, to add to difficulties, the northern Chinese city of Hohhot in Inner Mongolia is dealing with China's first outbreak of new Omicron subvariant BF7, which is thought to be more transmissible and better able to evade the immune system than other strains. The US Center for Disease Control and Prevention has warned that BF7 appears to be more infectious than previous Omicron strains and predicted it would cause a surge in infections this winter. Wang Yuge, a researcher at the US National Institute of Health, speaking to China's state-run People's Daily, expressed over the weekend that patients who have been infected with BA5 are still at risk of contracting BF7 and advised Chinese residents to get vaccinated. Meanwhile, as Beijing prepares to host the Party Congress, the capital has tightened interprovincial and even intra-provincial travel. Beijing itself is very difficult to travel to. As we have been following for months now, implementation of Beijing's zero-COVID policy, most infamously with Shanghai's 2 months of lockdown, has hurt economic growth, with GDP forecasts being revised down almost every few weeks. It is hoped that during the 20th Party Congress, Beijing leadership will declare victory against the virus, boast about the superiority of the Chinese response versus the US, Europe and Japan, and then signal that zero COVID can be gradually eased. Some international banks anticipate that borders may begin to reopen in Q1 or Q2 2023. There are 2 wildcards, however, which may cause hesitation among Beijing's leadership to open up the country. The first is that, after years of state media messaging, many Chinese citizens are truly terrified of COVID, even in its current, far more mild form. The second is that China has no herd immunity, relatively low medical resources measured at a per capita rate, and a modest vaccination rate of what some have argued is a suboptimal vaccine. According to the State Council, nearly 90% of China's 1.4 billion people have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19, But for people aged 60 years or older, vaccination levels are only around 86%, lower than countries such as Singapore and South Korea. Last month, state media reported on a recent government study saying that an uncontrolled Omicron wave could overwhelm the hospital system of China and cause 1.6 million deaths, almost 50% more than the total US COVID death count, though this could have simply been designed to shore up support for zero COVID policy. Regardless, most analysts agree that easing zero COVID will be like tearing off a band-aid, with a lot of short-term pain and potential instability. The question is, when will Beijing decide to do it? Because in the meantime, China's economy continues to slowly be choked, and public support for zero COVID with it. And speaking of this, next up, the Chinese economy. Hey guys, if you like what I'm trying to do here with China Update and you'd like to help me keep this channel sustainable, continue producing episodes for you guys every day, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. This is the best way to support the channel and keep it financially sustainable. As always, thank you so much everybody for the ongoing support. If you're enjoying today's episode in particular, don't forget to hit the like button. Next up, the economy. On China Update, we usually like to look at tourism and spending numbers after a major national holiday, as this often acts as an excellent proxy for household consumption and consumer confidence. Last week, China celebrated its National Day holiday with a so-called Golden Week of time off, the second longest holiday period in China after the Spring Festival, also known as Chinese New Year within the country. Now, looking at the initial data for the holiday period, the picture is not pretty. Chinese households cut back sharply on travel and spending during the National Day Golden Week. According to numbers published today, Monday, by the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, tourism revenue declined 26% to 287 billion RMB, approximately $40.3 billion US dollars from a year ago, and most tellingly, the spending was down 56% compared with pre-pandemic levels in 2019. 56% is an incredible drop, worse even than last year's 40% decrease from 2019 levels, and a stark reminder of just how hard household incomes and confidence have been hit since the pandemic and the rollout of Beijing Zero COVID. About 422 million trips were taken during last week's holiday, down 18% year-on-year, and down 39% below 2019 levels. And it's not just the case that people are not traveling. One could argue that the tightening COVID controls have put people off traveling between provinces or even between cities. But as we will see, spending in non-travel related services have collapsed too. According to online ticketing service provider Maoyan Entertainment, movie ticket sales plunged over 60% versus just last year to 197 million US dollars. Next up for the economy, over the weekend, the State Council announced that service sectors, including tourism, elderly care, and financial services in some of China's largest cities will be allowed to open to foreign investment. The move represents a modest opening of China's foreign investment and a part of a wider pilot plan that will run until April 2024 in a small set of cities, Chongqing, Shanghai, and Tianjin, as well as the province of Hainan in the south of the country. In its announcement, the State Council directed relevant departments to, quote, make adjustments and to establish a management system that helps to expand and open up the service industry, end quote. The wider plan, first announced in early 2021, seeks to ease rules on foreign investment for 3 years and includes 203 pilot projects over 12 key service industries, including financial services, healthcare, education, elderly care, and e-commerce. Domestic commentators are praising the plan. Quote, in terms of scale, the population of the 4 areas is considerable, which is equivalent to the opening up of the tourism and elderly care market of up to 80 million people to foreign companies. In addition, the move also follows the consistent practice of China's opening up, first piloting in a small number of cities and industries, gaining experience, then steadily promoting to more areas, end quote. Indeed, the pilot system was particularly effective in China's opening up policies in the 1990s and early 2000s. Others, however, argue that the speed of these reforms now are too slow, the scope too narrowly defined, and the issues of local protectionism remain. And of course, this year, as we have seen from chambers of commerce representing Japanese, European and American businesses, many foreign investors, particularly foreign companies operating in the country, have historically low levels of confidence in the Chinese economy and the performance of administrators in the country. We will need to see whether these corporate attitudes improve after China eventually opens back up. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.